so change is inevitable at any point in time. And now, yes, with the COVID, yes, work from home, everything is, it's all a change at any point in time. And you have to manage it. I mean, it's just that you have to get used to it and manage it.
Yeah, thank you. I just discovered that on YouTube it was not going live. I just enabled it now. Thank you so much for those who have joined on YouTube. My apologies for the technical glitch. I didn't notice this when I started the broadcast. There's some error in setting up the broadcast. Now I hope it should be live and you should be able to hear us loud and clear. Hi, I'm Bhaskar Natarajan. With me, I have Lavanya, my wife, change leader, mother, and also someone who handles change on a daily basis. So, hi to all of you from both of us.
So change is definitely inevitable, Bhaskar. As you know, as every phases in your life, you have change. Uh, from the time, as I said, from that I was born and brought up in Mumbai, where life is very fast, right? And then I came to Hyderabad, where the life is like, it's very laid back. This is way back in 2004, where it's pretty laid back. And then we moved to Bangalore, again a change of city, change of job for me because I just left my job in Hyderabad. And then when you become a mother, again there is a change because the expectations are very different. And now with COVID, it's even more different. So at every point in your life there are always changes, and that too in a technological world like today, every time there is a change, and I think we all have to adapt to the changes, and that makes your life very simple. Yes, change is difficult. I mean, it is, I mean, I will say that adapting to change might take some time. Some people take it very, they just, it's like, some people take it very easily, some people might find it as a challenge, but change in any form or in your way of life is definitely inevitable. You have to get used to it.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I have a question which I asked both my daughters, and figured out how um, change is being perceived. Just to give an illustration, on your screen you would see a flower. Let us assume that this is a magical flower, okay, and it doubles at midnight. That's the property. Okay, and you have a situation where this kind of magical flower is something you may come across only in fairy tale. Okay, so Lavanya, I have this question for you. uh, so imagine if this flower doubles at night, every stroke of the midnight. It takes about 30 days for the entire lake to be covered with this flower. By when do you think the lake will be half full?
I mean, you've posted trivia to me now. um okay, not really sure. What would be your answer?
Okay, so the answer is 29. So mostly people give me answer like 15 or 20 or different numbers, but little they realize that this magical flower has got a feature of doubling at midnight. So for the lake to be completely covered on 30th day, that very midnight, the previous night, it would be half full. So this has many implications. I ask these questions wherever I go. When I have to talk about change, this particular metaphor really emphasizes one single sentence, which is change is far more real, far more faster than you realize.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely right, Bhaskar, what you mentioned. Yes.
So many a times, what happens is we don't realize that change is happening at a very rapid pace. We think that it's happening somewhere in China, somewhere in Italy, somewhere in Europe. It will take time. We are immune to it. It may not affect us, but before we could realize, it catches up with us. And change need not be drastic or dramatic change. Change can be small, incremental change. For example, Lavanya, I have another trivia question for the discussion. From the time early men started writing on the cave walls, from the time we invented the language or the alphabets, uh, till the time we invented a printing press, how much time would have passed by? Any guesses?
Lot of years, because from the Stone Age till I think medieval age, where they started probably writing on those leaves in those olden days, and then the printing press. Yeah, a lot of years, maybe a century, could be. I mean, more than that.
Yeah, it's tens and thousands of years, and it's not easy to fathom this kind of time period. Nearly 10,000 years have passed or more before the first printing press was invented. Till that time, we were writing on dried leaves and papyrus and so on. So that was a gradual, in the timeline of human history, wherein the first email was invented in less than 500 years. So see the kind of change that is catching up on us. And I know there has been experiments in the last year or so where a person from Kerala used to communicate with the person in Spain without any medium, through thoughts. There was no other connections. Only through thought they could talk to each other. It was an experiment, but nevertheless it gives you a flavor of what's yet to come. You just have to think, and the other person would receive it, telepathy.
Yeah.
So change is really catching up, and change is constant. The tagline of our channel, New Normal, is also change is constant. So how do we adapt? How do we come out with these kind of issues? And it's important. Yeah, I just see the comment section. Ram Kumar, that's the right answer. 29th day. Yeah, you're right. For the magical flower metaphor that I asked Lavanya, yes, that's the right answer. Okay, so now this is the nature of change. How do we handle it? At a personal level, I'm sure there are many who are stuck in different parts of the country, who either are with family or away from family, or really having difficult times in making ends meet. So how do you cope with it? And there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity and volatility around us. So in short, there is an acronym called WUCA, was popularized by US military. VUCA. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations. So, I mean, naturally, Army would be the first of the lot who would talk about this, because all the strategy and plan that they draw on the drawing board would be out of the window the moment enemy shoots a bullet. The first bullet is shot, and then all the plans are out the window, and you're on your own. You have to devise your own method and strategy to defeat enemy in a wartime situation. However, in a personal life, that's not the case. You don't have enemy out there. Many a times the enemy is within. We have our own notions of change, our own anxiety, perceptions, lack of information or more information, manipulation by various stakeholders. All of these create a situation where we create our own prisons in our mind, or sometimes we even exaggerate these situations in a situation where we start moving faster than what is required. So it's very important for us to take a stock on what is a fact, what is a fiction, right? So with that, let me request audience who are watching to start sharing your questions. I can see Rakesh is typing the challenges. Yes, the first challenge is focus on projects. So I take it as ability to focus on project or lack of ability to focus on projects. In either ways, that is a very challenging situation. So Lavanya, you handle projects all across the globe, and your clients are all over the place. How do you propose one could handle the focus part?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a lot of projects, yes, it becomes a challenge as to which one would you want to take first, right? Because when you have multiple clients, multiple projects, how do you go about? Yes, it's definitely challenging. That's where the prioritization comes into play. I mean, this is based on my own experiences. I used to handle a lot of projects, so that's where your prioritization comes. Like, where do you think that your stakeholder, where do you think that your attention is needed more? Like where your team would not be able to handle and your involvement is needed more, that's where probably you will take first. And then where you think your team can handle, you will probably get at the order of priority. The other thing could be the urgency as well, like where you think your stakeholders, either they will not be available to you when when they have other meetings to go, you have to prioritize them, finish it off. So that is how probably I will prioritize the projects. One is the urgency, second is the stakeholder availability, and third is where I am needed, where for my team, where I'm needed the most.
Sure. Adding on to what Lavanya mentioned, one of the thing which stuck with me while dealing with different kinds of projects is you get what you tolerate, right? So when you are okay with a lot of stuff happening around you and multitasking is the norm of the day, and you're okay with substandard deliverables or missing deadlines or managing stakeholder expectation in a way that you can work around their expectations and deliver things at a different points in time. So if that is the way of life, I think it's better to introspect, not to multitask, and start zoning down into one or two prioritized areas. So what would the benefit be? The benefit would be your stakeholder would know you are a reliable, dependable person, right? The customers, the clients would be very clear. Yes, if Bhaskar says that I would deliver this, he would definitely deliver. Art of saying no will also be required to stay focused on the project. There will be a lot of temptations, shortcuts, easy way to deliver things. New hacks would appear very tantalizing and tempting for you. How do you say no to some of these? That's another area that would help you focus and stay relevant to your plan. The second thing is critical part of focusing on project is to reset expectations with your stakeholder. So new information is coming, and you are able to gauge the new information, new data that you're collecting, separate the fact and fiction, and decide, okay, with this new information, things are changing, right? I'll give an example. In one of the projects which I did in Bangalore, when I was part of a consulting arm of a large IT company, where the smart meters were being installed in homes of Bangalore. And BESCOM being a government undertaking, people were really skeptical on how this is going to affect their jobs. There's a lineman who, whose job would be impacted. There are people who exclusively work on noting down meter readings by going to home, door to door. Uh, Introducing this smart meter means there is a microchip, like a SIM card, which would be connected to the tower, and periodically, once in the beginning of the month and once in the end of the month, there will be a short messaging or SMS that would go to the server, and that's it, meter reading taken. So how do you see a mindset of a person working in a government undertaking who used to do this as a job? Overnight, the job really vanished. So if this project comes to life, and what would I do? I don't know computers. I don't know how to handle a laptop or a tablet. I don't have any other technological skills. All I know is carrying a register with me, and with a pen and paper, I would note down these readings, and have a card with the customer, take a signature, and so on. So old method. So this was a big issue, and we submitted a project plan to client saying that by this time we would accomplish these milestones. But new information is coming, and it's so important for me to have a reset expectation with my client to say, what, out of your 250 people who are doing only meter reading, you need to have an open house or a town hall with the managing director of your organization, and listen to their queries, listen to their anxiety, assure them that this change is good for them, and they would be reskilled and repositioned in different jobs. They're not going to lose their jobs. Only then we could proceed with the project. So this milestone of making a town hall happen became so important for me. It was very low in the priority in the action plan I submitted, but when the new information came in, I had to put it on top of the priority. So my entire project plan went for a toss, but still I managed the project because I could reset the expectation with the client, because this is the need of the hour, new information is coming. So that's about the focus, whether for good or bad. You need to take that call. It's so important. When you look back and connect the dots, some decisions may be right, some decisions may not be, but be brave enough, bold enough to take that decision at that point in time. The second point raised by Rakesh is online transition. Yeah, of course. Many industries are doing it. It's very inevitable. The example I gave you was about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Now it's even more imperative. Universities are now going online in India, especially, and there's debate about what is good, what is not good. There's a digital divide. Inclusiveness is gone. People who have device can access to these courses. People who do not have device or data will be left out. So that discussion will continue for some time till roti, kapda, makan, mobile, and data becomes basic amenities. So that online transition is both a systemic issue and the individual issue. Even my mindset should change. When I talk about skill development for entry level jobs, again, the online transition is a must. I can't stay in an old paradigm where only face to face training will be effective for attitudinal change, and only then they will get a job. So I should find a way of blended method of online as well as classroom as a combination to cut short the training duration, bring the cost down, and increase the effectiveness, so that number of people who land up in a job, sustain on the job for a year or more, is higher. So that transition is a systemic as well as individual change process. I have another question from Pratyasha. So Lavanya, you want to take that?
Yeah, best practices during new normal. I think that's what Pratyasha is checking. So, Pratyasha, based on my experience again here, what I would like to share is that, see, as I said, our family, I mean, we have, in my family, I have my mother, my in-laws, and then two children, and of course, me and Bhaskar. Um, so there are a lot of different practices that we follow. I mean, because of the new normal, one is the most important thing is being a working women. What I have understood now is sometimes there's a very thin line between working for home and working from home, which we all have to accept. It's I know that earlier it was very different. Once I sit in my place, I will not get up for that 7-8 hours. It is just be that work and work. But now it's definitely not possible, and sometimes I feel it's okay. I mean, I'm just compensating for it. It's just that in middle I might take an hour's break or something, because new normal, where you don't have a maid, you don't have a cook, you have to do everything. So I do take breaks in between, but somewhere I try to compensate for it. And it's not just here, it's same around the whole world. People do understand. I think people are very considerate, so that's one of the best practices. And also, don't be tough on yourself. Again, it is what I have learned. Earlier I used to say, no, I just can't get up, this is not, this is not I should be doing, this is not me. But now I've understood, no, you'll have to give yourself, that leverage. It has to, you have to do that. Otherwise it will become too difficult for you to handle this.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Lavanya. Thank you so much for that. How do we make a different approach when it comes to new normal? Have a routine, very set routine. It's going to help you break the task into smaller components and accomplish 10% or 15% at a time, so that over a period of 10 days or so you're done. So that's one way of handling this. The other way is don't wait for last minute inspiration. Start putting in some structure. I think the more we put a structure in, the more the work would take a shape. For example, if you have a timetable to handle, classes in the place that you work for, create a timetable for the entire year. If it's a 40-week curriculum, break it down into 10 weeks of 4 parts, and then start breaking it down into smaller chunks, which would help you. And then set milestones. Okay, if I have to test understanding of my students, I need to have a formative assessment. How do I plan those formative assessment dates? And once the dates are fixed, now I need to work backwards to complete the syllabus. So that way, when you break down a complex problem into smaller chunks and then set milestones, work backwards, it's easier. That's one good way to look at. And you will also be able to track your progress. As a project manager and educator, I know for sure, if you don't have those milestones, you don't know whether you're progressing in the right pace, right direction or not. Because there's a Murphy's law, which says work expands to fill time, which is so true. I have seen this in reality many a times. If I have a deadline, I complete it. Sometimes student syndrome kicks in. I work in the last minute to complete it, but the deadline drives me. The deadline motivates me to ensure that I'm fully prepared and giving my best, not the best, but my best at that point in time. Twice or thrice I may fail, then I realize that, okay, my best is not the best, so let me start putting some effort there. So that's the way we could look at it. The third situation shared by Rakesh: continuous distraction due to feeling forceful stay. Yeah, obviously, in this situation, it's so important to stay focused. The continuous distraction could be the uncertainty which I spoke about. Please remember this formulae: VUCA, VUCA. What is the antithesis of VUCA? Volatility. How do I take the other end of the spectrum of volatility? Bringing some predictability, having some schedule in place, making small progress, ensuring that you are documenting what you are doing. That would really help you to say how much you accomplished in the time that passed by, and then you can publish it to people whom you know, to say, hey, I have done these in the last 3 weeks. That gives you a sense of accomplishment. That volatility will be easy to handle. Uncertainty, again, yes, there are a lot of factors beyond our control. New googlies are coming in from all directions. As a like cricket metaphor, how do you handle that as a batsman? What you can do is be certain of your stance and what you could do the best at this moment, and have a smile on your face and start taking that with your own stride. That's the best advice I got from my mentor. It's working well for me. Uncertainty take it to the other spectrum and say, how do I activate my parasympathetic nervous system to keep my nerves calm? uh, Having constant breaks, water. It's so important for me to hydrate myself, drink water, lots of water during this period. Make sure that you are hydrated enough and hydrated well. We sometimes forget to drink and take care of ourselves, during such a uncertain period. And third, very important part is have a routine with your loved ones near and dear, to have a video call, to talk to them, to ensure that their safety and your safety are assured, and that will give you a sense of comfort. And I think these small tips are so critical. And when it comes to complexity, many a times, as we spoke earlier, try to deconstruct the complex problem into smaller problems. Okay, the lockdown 3.0 is started now. Whether it's going to extend or not is not a question I can answer. But lockdown 3.0 is here now, very imminent from tomorrow. And there are some local restrictions. Place where I live in, Karnataka, the government has announced few relaxations and few restrictions. Again, there is a ambiguity here, whether my district or my ward is a green zone or a orange zone. So all of these are data points that you will always recheck and confirm as you go forward. It's so important for you to have that written down and then navigate it, one step at a time. Lavanya, you want to add anything on this?
No, I think that's good, Bhaskar. I think you've covered most of the things that you wanted to say. I think we're good.
Thank you. Yeah, control excess media or social media consumption. Um, See, this is a very tricky challenge that you are handling, Rakesh. You are in the epicenter of a global, crisis. The China flattening of curve has pushed all the attention to Italy, where you are right now, and it's so important. The local government was in news. I was just following some, flippant remarks made by some of the leaders from your part of the world. Uh, I know people are reacting to it. They are questioning the leader's empathy. So all of these news, it's going to stay there. Since we are a different era, social media era. Whatever you say, whatever you read, whatever you write, it's going to be there for eternity unless until you yourself go and delete it. So the source is the issue, and I'm sure there are many fake news as well. So how do you safeguard yourself? By closing your eyes, like the parable where a cat closed its eyes and thought that world is dark. There is no light in the world. That's not the case. You can't just shut your eyes from social media. You need to be selective. One thing which really helped me, I can share that tip with you, is have your particular time of the day where you would consume this news. For me, it's in the morning when my mother-in-law is watching TV. I also join her and see what's happening in different parts of the world, and that helps me to just stay in touch. And while having breakfast, I go through some of the online magazines, check news items which are of my interest. I know there are 5 or 6 magazines which I would just rely upon for good news, and I just go there. WhatsApp is not a source of news. It can be for fun, for relaxation, but don't over rely on WhatsApp. It could be for staying in touch with your love, near and dear ones, but not for credible source of news. Wherein when it comes to YouTube channels and all the news aggregators that you normally have subscribed to, I think that's good enough. The idea is to stay in touch with what's happening around. What are the top trends? What are the 2 or 3 news items which really affect you in this part of the world where you live in? That's more than enough. I think that should help. Having a schedule is going to help us. That's a new normal. Our habits have changed and it's going to change further. We need to adhere to local restrictions from now on, even when the lockdown situation is lifted off. I think gradually we'll have to get adjusted to a new normal of new social conditions, greeting each other and staying in touch, and so on and so forth. Let me quickly look into the comments section. Kavita, yeah, you're right. The better version of yourself anticipate change and adapt. It's very well said. Many times I found it, uh, easier said than practiced. What is helping is to convince ourselves to believe that change is constant. Even this too shall pass. And there are some affirmations that would help. Tough times don't last, tough people do. These kind of affirmations are going to help us tide over this crisis that we are in. And this is going to be uh, river rafting, whitewater rafting, as they say. It's not a fair weather lake where you're going to row your boat. It's going to be a constant stream of water flowing at a gush, and you have no control over how your boat is going to go. All you can do is just hope for the best and be in control of your grip. That's it. So that's the situation we are all right now. Yep. So that's earlier. If you're feeling work stress, we are going for leave and staying at home. Now it is different. Yeah, Nupur, you're right. Um, Lavanya, you want to take that comment?
Yeah, I found it really interesting, Nupur. Thanks for posting it. Yes, I think earlier when we wanted a break, we used to sit at home, right, when we don't want to work. But now there is no distinction. Your work is home, home is work. So yes, it's definitely challenging, you know, where there is hardly any distinction between both. But probably what I can says we can do some, I mean, some of my friends here or some of my colleagues, what they have been doing is they've been doing some DIYs, doing some drawings, of even though if you're not, I mean, you may not be good at drawing or painting, but just try something new or do some online classes that ways. And also a very important thing is to I mean, as I just mentioned, where your home and work is kind of overlapping. So you have to take a hard stop. You have to say that, okay, fine, I'm working till 6, I'm working till 7, and then you'll have to take the break. I mean, that also kind of helps. Sometimes what happens at home, we are overworked. We keep on working because there is no, we don't have to pack our bags, we don't have to take the transport, we don't have to get back home. So I think that is also very important when you need to take a hard stop. And I think you can do things which would be of interest to you, something you may have never even tried. So just to give an example, so I tried doing some of the culinary which I've never tried all these years. I just saw some online videos and tried it. So maybe that helps me in de-stressing away from the work tension that I have. And you could do something which you really love to do. It could be, like as I said, and a lot of online stuff also which is available now, where you could do like a yoga or a Zumba or whatever. That also keeps you fit and also de-stresses you from your work.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, what comes to my mind is the concept of work and home is going to get blurred. The boundaries are going to get blurred. One example I can share, which is a favorite, story of mine. Um, so one of my guru, he asked me this question long back. He said, if you have a fresh orange fruit in your hand and you squeeze it, what juice do you get? I was like perplexed. Why is he asking me this question? It's so important. And anyway, since he's a guru, and I thought, okay, he must be having some message behind this question. I said orange juice. I said okay, but if I squeeze the same fruit in the adjacent room near reception area, what juice should I expect? I said, yeah, same orange juice. No, but the place is different, right? Here it's in the conference room, workplace, and I'm squeezing this orange. You said I can expect orange juice. but there the place is different. I should be expecting a different juice. I said, no, how is it possible? The fruit is a fruit, and it can't change into a grape or a banana or anything, but it still remains orange. Then he made a point. Yes, that's exactly what's happening with us. Wherever we go, we are the same. Under pressure, the real juice comes out, whether it's workplace or at home. So change is that's the pressure that getting applied externally on us. If I get succumbed to the pressures and the kind of issues that come along with the change, then I'm going to feel the heat and react and respond differently for different situations. So I just have to remember this that if I have sweet, good nature of mind practiced as a way of life, whichever part of work or at home, under pressure, I would exude those behavior. I would not be a different person in different location. So I think relaxation is a concept again. It's not easy to understand the term relaxation because the very scientific fact which I read sometime recently is our brain is just 2% of our body weight, but it consumes 20% of energy. Whether we are doing some extra cognitive overload of calculations and scientific discovery or at rest and relaxed, no matter what we do or don't do, our energy consumption of brain remains the same. So that's really baffling scientists. Logic says if I put in hard work, I should be burning more calories, but that's not the case. So what's really happening is something neuroscientists are trying to figure out. So the concept of relaxation is something going through a change as well. So how do you relax? Not doing anything is not relaxation. How do I switch off those thought processes and start focusing on here and now, the moment, being mindful of what I'm going through at this point in time, and be authentic to that. Okay, I have anxiety, I have palpitations. What I need right now is to calm down my anxiety. What do I do? How do I overcome this? Maybe a breathing exercise would really help. Some pranayama would help. Yoga for some of us, or active sport for some of us. Get into a match of table tennis with a wall, where you put a table against the wall and start practicing, and just stay with the moment. At that time, don't think about something else, either in the past or in the future. What's going to happen? Then that activity is not going to relax you. So I think that's the combination that we need to try when it comes to coping with difficult times. I have a question for you, Lavanya. It's critical for viewers out there to understand how by doing household work you get relaxation. Because I have seen you close quarters for so many years. When I see cleaning as a very tedious and hard work, from my end, for you, cleaning gives you relaxed and calmness, and also you find solace in cleaning. So, can you tell something about that?
Yeah. So maybe I am wired a bit differently. That's what I think. Because for me, cleaning actually de-stresses me. It helps me to, become more calm. And it actually makes me feel happy. I mean, if I have to say that, it actually makes me feel happy at the end of the day. Um, Bhaskar says, how can it be? How can cleaning de-stress you? How can it make you happy? I don't know. I feel that is how I am. For me, if I see things which are not clean or something, I am like, I don't even have to eat food. I'm okay with that. I'll first clean up everything, do everything, and that helps me, to kind of be very happy at the end of the day. So, as I said, Bhaskar, maybe I'm wired differently as compared to others.
Oh, thanks, Ram. Sorry, I was talking on mute. So this is so important. It's not about whether you get relaxation while cleaning, but the habits of thinking and habits of behavior both are so important and tied together. So in my last 2 decades of my corporate experience, working in for-profit as well as not-for-profit, I have gathered only one thing: the kind of mindset I carry, the habits of thinking that I carry is going to determine how far I go out in solving a problem. Carol Dweck is one of my favorite researcher. She published a book on mindset, which talks about growth mindset and fixed mindset. It's a wonderful read. I think you can just pick up a YouTube summary by searching on internet. Carol Dweck, Dweck. She's authority on this area, and you will find a lot of educators, corporate managers, coaches have taken up to this concept really seriously, and it works really, wonders when it comes to change. For example, when you are in a team and you feel your team leader is out to get you and make your life so difficult, and find ways and means to put you on a tough spot all the time, gives you toughest assignments so far, among all the colleagues that you are the ones being targeted, quote unquote. If that's the reality for you, then you may want to think it differently from now on. Because Carol Dweck says a growth mindset person would not take it that way, would say, I'm the best in the team, that's why I'm getting all the good projects, all the toughest, challenging assignments I'm getting. My team leader has faith in me, trust in me. That's why all these critical projects are coming to me. So I'm always ready, up for any challenge. This will be a learning opportunity for me. Uh, Failure is not final. That will be a bumper sticker for a growth mindset person. Whereas a fixed mindset person is, oh my God, if I fail, that means I am a failure. It's not about I failed in that project. So the identity of a project or outcome vis-a-vis the person is all interlinked for a fixed mindset moment. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we are classifying people as fixed and growth mindset. What Carol Dweck says and what I understood is each of us have the ability to switch from one mindset to another, whether it's at school. For example, I can share a personal story of mine. When I moved from fifth standard to sixth standard, I found myself in a class of 100 students in a government school, and my Miss Kannamani, I still remember her name because she had a very big influence on my career. She picked random 10 people in the class. This is the first week of my schooling, so I vividly remember the events. And I was one among those 10. And she said, "You're all group leaders. As long as you stay in the first 10 ranks, you will remain group leader for the entire year." And then she set a target of first midterm exam, which is about to happen 90 days from then. As a milestone, I said, if you score within the top 10 ranks, you will remain as a group leader, and you will get to monitor 9 people in your group. Me being the 10th one and a class of 100, it was like a field day for me, and I took a lot of serious attention to studies from a schooling system where I was not paying much attention to academics. I was very naughty and very backbencher in the fifth standard. When I came to sixth standard, I became a group leader without having to work for it, and to retain that, I have to work harder. So that put me on a different tangent or a trajectory, I should say. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you, all along, I was thinking that I got a lease of life, and I started, believing that hard work would pay itself twice, and I should, get the score. Otherwise, I'm a failure. So throughout my education system, I always thought lesser marks means those are fit for nothing, useless students, and higher, more the marks means I have to respect them. And that has been my upbringing, and it carried through even in the corporate life as well. So recently, after introducing or Carol Dweck got introduced in my life, I started changing my attitude and perception. Failure is not final. Backbencher does not mean the person is fit for nothing. Each of us are wired differently. I know this personal change is going to affect us in many ways. So, with a change in mindset or change in habits of our thinking, we could bring about a big difference for ourselves and people around us. That's the long and short of our message today. Lavanya, you want to add anything? You want to share any concluding remarks?
Yeah, that's true, Bhaskar. The sense where you said, right, and I mean, I sort of feel like completely, agree with you on what you spoke about, regarding the change, probably the fifth to sixth standard change that you had, and which kind of helped you to, shift your focus, and I think that's very important, and that's actually made a big change in your life, I believe, right?
Yeah, true. Thank you. And there's a question from Kavita. What external factors shape up one's growth mindset or fixed mindset? That's a very interesting question because there are both internal and external factors. Internal factors, many of us are aware of, our habits of thinking. External factors could mean reward mechanism that's available at a workplace or within the family. I can give an example of a family, and then I'll move to workplace. In family, when a parent is showing all signs of appreciation for a kid who gets marks and reprimands or taunts when the same kid does not score well, then that's a trigger. Then the kid learns as he or she grows into adult, healthy adult. You know what? I'll matter. My self worth depends on the score I'm getting or marks I'm getting. So that is one of example I can share. At workplace, when your colleagues are talking about achievements and celebrating individuals' achievements rather than team outcome or output, then again that's a trigger. What gets measured gets done. If bosses are focusing only on output and outcome and not much on shaping the efforts taken by the team member in getting better productivity out of them, then that's also another external factor. The culture that we are in could greatly shape the entire mindset for people who are in. So it's so important to talk about it openly and bring about that. As a takeaway, I should say during this tough time, it's okay to talk about change. It's okay to talk about how it's affecting you. It's okay to put some demands on time for yourself. Have a structured way of handling things, have a timetable, make sure that you stick to it, and take a periodic assessment of how the week went by. So I had a schedule of say morning 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and this is how it panned out for me. I could accomplish these many things. For the week ahead, I have planned these many outcomes, and I'm going to stick to the timeline. So give yourself that stroke of positivity. Stay in touch with the reality and ask for feedback. I think these things are very very inevitable when it comes to handling change. And one other factor which I think also helps is politics. Handling organizational politics at family level as well as at corporate level is going to be a big determinant. So politics is not a bad word. Don't take it as a, negative connotation. Politics is good. Uh, it's only the skills that matter. How do I play politics? How do I stay in the network of people who have information? How do I ensure that that information is available to me to make my decisions more robust? And if I have to get some things done, who is the right person to approach, and which lever to push or pull to get that done? So to make this change work, I need to understand politics. Organizational politics is a bit tricky. for the very reason that the skills required to handle that is not that developed for many of us. So what you see is what you get is a personality type of few leaders I have worked with. That means they speak their mind, they tell you exactly what's going on. uh, you don't have any hidden agenda happening at their end, so people around them kind of adjust and go about their business and also make their plans based on the personality of that leader. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, the highly manipulative leaders, where they have their hidden agenda, they know exactly what they want from you. However, they would not tell you in so clear terms, but they are going to ask questions in such a way that you yourself commit those changes from your end. So that's going to be very tougher part to handle organizational politics. And in a virtual environment like this, it's even more difficult. You can't read people's mind, body language in a virtual forum. So how do you handle that politics? That's going to be a critical part. So keeping in touch on WhatsApp, keeping in touch on the irregular or informal way with your friends, making sure that you are copied on certain emails in a way that it positions you rightly to the power that you hold. All of these are going to be critical to navigate this path of change. And Lavanya, you handle global teams. Your teams are spread all across. How do you see this part of it?
Yeah, see, at these times where your teams are, you're not able to be with your team, and where you have to just connect with them over whatever, like whatever, whether through calls, I mean phone calls or video calls, whatever, it becomes, sorry, yeah, to whatever calls, you have to connect with them. That becomes really important. Now, how do you connect? I mean, what could you do? So one is like, telling them that you're always available to them whenever they need you. That's very important, because I mean, with even with technology, right, sometimes it so happens that technology, there are a lot of glitches in technology. So it's very important that as a leader you have to give them that confidence that you're there with them at whatever help they need, you're there with them. So that's one thing. And also what we do is, we do also, once in a week we make something, like we do play some games, or it's nothing work for half an hour. That's it. That's what we do. We play some games, that way, and discuss something which is not related to work. That way you also develop a personal connect with them, and you don't miss that thing. Okay, fine, otherwise the team concept becomes very difficult in this virtual world.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Politics is a integral part of our life, and we need to come to terms with it and ensure that we play high integrity, high impact politics as people talk about. And you will find a lot of research on this on Harvard and many other articles to talk about how to have the know-how of what's happening in your organization, the networks that are there, the social networks that are movers and shakers in your organization, who is on the hierarchy more powerful, who has got information hubs and knots. All of these are going to be critical for you to keep a tab on. So that's critical in handling large scale change like this. So how do you protect yourself from all these externalities affecting you? A couple of things. One, when you know there is something which is working against you, please raise your voice, speak up, stand up for your rights and values, and ensure that you show up for meetings on time. So many times, what happens is we have multiple priorities and competing priorities. We may not attend some of the meetings, which may be crucial for us. In this situation, be a vigilant person. Track all your emails. Have designated time to track your emails, important ones. Mark them and flag them for response later. The moment you don't respond or don't participate in some of these situations, you would be left out. That's for sure. and you want to be included. At the same time, you should not show your insecurity. How do you balance it out? That's the key. That's the tricky part. The moment you show your insecurity, then people would know that yes, you have something going on and it's important for him. So how do we take that as advantage? So you need to strike a balance between what is the right thing to do, what is a high integrity, high impact politics. At the same time, what is critical for your career growth, and safeguard those critical parts which would help you stay balanced. So change is not an easy thing. Just to conclude, um, it's so important for us to be vigilant, create and plan a change management charter, and then stick to it. That's how I would put it. Three takeaways I can talk about. One, have a normal routine which would help you uh, plan this better. Second, make sure that you are staying connected with the movers and shakers of the organization or the family network to know what's happening. And third, very important, is have a growth mindset approach towards any externalities, any external events that are hitting you unexpectedly. I think that should be good to go. Thank you so much for joining, and thanks for all those questions. Appreciate you staying online for the entire duration. If you like this kind of free flowing chat conversation and answering Q&A kind of session, please do subscribe this channel, and please write a note to me with topics that would be of interest to you, so that we can come prepared and share some of the working models with you. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Stay calm, stay sane, and stay home. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.